Hey guys, welcome back to Carpool Customs, and on this episode we're doing some more work on the Turbo EF burnout car. Alright, so as I said, we're going to be doing some work on the Turbo Falcon this weekend. So what I want to do is I want to bog over all these welds, so sand them back, get them nice and smooth, lay some bog over them, and then sand them back again and try and get a coat of primer on the engine bay. Right, sorry for that gap in the video, the GoPro stuffed up again. So as I was saying, I'd like to get a coat of primer on this engine bay and just get it looking nice so it stops rusting, because as you can see, all the welds are starting to rust because I left them out in bare metal. So after we get that done, if we do get it done, I'd like to start painting my wheel wells and the underneath, like the front half of the car underneath it, with some black paint I got over there, and just keep that looking fresh and protect it from the rust. Alright, this is everything I've got for this weekend. I've got some, well, here's the primer. That's the primer I'm going to use, Septone Etch Primer. It's the paint I want to use for under the car. I've got sandpaper, I've got 80, 120, 240, 340, 400 and 800, which hopefully the 800 is fine enough to get it nice and smooth. Also got some masking tape, some bog. This is fiberglass bog, which I wasn't originally going to use, but it was actually the cheapest one. It was actually on sale, so that's why I got that. With some masking sheets to mask up the car so I don't get overspray all over it like the Commodore. And yeah, so I would like to start sanding this back tonight. I'm not going to set the generator up to grind a couple of these welds back with the Dremel because I couldn't actually get the grinder in there last time. So that'll be tomorrow, grinding them back. So yeah, try and get these sanded back and start bogging. So I'll put you guys on a time lapse of doing that. Alright, so I've got this little bit done here. This is ready for bog. I went a bit overkill with the sanding just for now because all I need to do is just sand where I'm welding, where I'm bogging. And then, because I'm still, after I bog, I'm still going to have to go over it all again to get it nice and perfectly smooth with the bog. And I only need to put the tiniest little amount of bog on just to smooth them out and fill the little low spots in. So I'm just going to try and keep the bog level to a minimum. So all I need to do is just sand all of these welds back to bare metal. GoPro turned off again. But as I was saying, just get the bits I'm bogging back to bare metal and rust free. As you can see, they're a bit rusty there. So I'm just going to go over all of them, sand them back. That'll all I do for tonight. Then tomorrow morning I can do these little welds over here, and I think I need to weld a crack up just there. There's a crack there I need to weld up, so weld that up, get that ground back, and then we'll start bogging. And while the bogs are drying, I have something else we can go do some filming on. I'm not going to film or do any more time lapses of me sanding because it's just the same stuff, just in different places. So I will come back to you guys later tonight when probably the sun's gone down and all of these welds are ground back and ready to bog. Alright, I don't know how well you guys can see because it is night time, but I've got all of my welds ground back ready to bog, obviously apart from those two which I said before. But it is looking much better, I must say. All of these are nice and smooth, all down there, all across here, up there, nice and shiny. So I'm going to do a little bit more sanding on this, so I will see you in the morning. Alright, good morning everybody. It is now the next morning. As you can see, it is nice and cloudy outside. But last night I got a bit carried away and I got all of the bog laid down in Joseph's engine bay. And she's looking pretty good. It's a pretty rough bog job because it is fiberglass and it's hard to smear it out smoothly, but that's why I have sandpaper. Unfortunately, since it is cool weather, this bog is taking forever to dry, so I probably won't actually be able to sand any of this until later tonight. But it's alright, because I've got something else we can go do some filming on and go do some work on, so I'll quickly show you that. Alright, just quickly before I actually show you the other car we're going to be working on, I'll give you guys a rundown on what I want to do to Joseph. So I want it to be a burnout / drag car, maybe drift car as well. So that old 4 litre will not go back in this car. It will get a LPG barra conversion that will be run on E85, and I'll put some head studs and stuff through it, rebuild it if I have to, put a built auto behind it, a built tail shaft, and put a torque locker in the rear end. I was going to put a full spool in it, but I don't want it to be fully locked all the time, because I'm going to have to drive it around, and I don't want to snap axles straight away. And also I want to relocate all my relays up to under here, so they're out of the way. And the idea for this is, the reason I'm spending so much time on the engine bay is I want to have the outside of the car looking ratty, just so people look at it and go, oh, what's that piece of shit? Then you open the bonnet and it's got a nice shiny engine bay and a 400 real kilowatt barra in it. So yeah, that's the goal, 400 real kilowatts, and I will be very happy. Right, enough babbling about Joseph. We will have a look at this old girl. This is my 95 EF. This was the very first car I ever bought. Back in 2018, I used it as a paddock basher and a painting canvas, as you can see. Yeah, she's seen better days. It's got a diff in it, but there's actually nothing in the diff housing. It's just all just sort of sitting back together. It's pretty sad, but the goal for this is I want to get this going so I can actually have a paddock basher out here again. Since all the tracks are getting overgrown, we need something to cut the tracks back in, and this would be the perfect thing to do it. Right, so I have used it as actually a little bit of a parts car. As you can see, I have pulled some of the interior apart, and there's no back seats or anything in it. Some nice sparkly floor mats. I'll quickly show you under the bonnet. If you're wondering why there's a tub on this, you will soon see. This thing, back in the day when I first did it, was actually really cool, because it had a pod filter was sticking up there. Actually, I'll put some pictures in of it so you can see, and I'll put some videos in so you can actually see what I used to do with this car.
done myself a mischief.
Right, so now that you understand what this car has actually been through and what it's done, the list for this thing: it needs a radiator, I need to finish bolting the gearbox back in because it's just an auto, I need to put the shifter linkage back in, need to bolt my front shocks back in properly because they're just sort of sitting in there. I need to get some more hard or soft lines from the back of the fuel pressure rail and regulator to the hard lines under the car. I've got a hose kit for it that I took off it. It does have a leaking head gasket too. It leaks water from the back of the block down there and just runs down the outside. It doesn't actually leak internally, it just leaks and dribbles water from the outside. Also needs new spark plugs and spark plug leads, new battery cables, but I have most of this stuff just kicking around. The only thing I actually will need to buy for it is another diff, but I won't actually put another diff in it. I'll get Joseph's old diff, since that needs to be rebuilt, and just put that in this car, and then the new diff I buy I'll build for Joseph, so Joseph has a nice diff. And I'd also like to put a turbo on this one day too. Also, another thing I forgot to mention, it has no fuel tank. So what I'm going to do is, since Joseph's little 30 litre fuel cell is not going to be big enough to feed the big barrel it's going to be getting, I'm just going to take that out and put it straight in this, just drill holes in the floor like I did with Joseph. So that's going to be the fuel tank and fuel system sorted out, and I'll put Joseph's L67 injectors in this and put it on E85 so it get that nice sweet smell when she's running. Alright, so the first thing I want to do to that big blue turd out the back is get some battery cables in it and actually get it cranking over, because it hasn't actually spun over for a year, and I know it's had water down the combustion chamber and in the cylinders, so hopefully it should still spin over. So I'm going to steal Joseph's battery terminals and stuff, because I'm not going to be using any of this. It's all going to be redone and put in the boot, so I don't need any of these. So I'm just going to take these and try and join them up. I don't actually have any joiners, so it's going to be a little bit difficult getting them to actually go into one cable, so hopefully I can get it to work. Alright, I've got some connections put on the end of my cables, as you can see, just this one and those two. I did just twist them together down there and put some tape around them for now until I get proper crimp connectors for next time I come out, but I need to bolt the starter motor in because I just had a look and it's just flopping around. So I dare say that's not connected, so I'll have to drag the jack out from in there, jack it up, bolt it in, make sure it's connected up, and then I can put a battery in it and see if it does anything. Alright, after a battle, the starter motor is bolted back in and all hooked up, so now I'll bring the Rodeo around to here, pull the battery out of it, sit it in there, hook the terminals up, and hopefully we will get it to crank over. Alright, I've got the battery all hooked up, ready to go, so let's see if it's actually going to do something. Get the key out of your pocket. Oh, we've got power. The dome light work? Oh, look at that. Still got a dome light. I did set the, oh, that sounds good. Oh, look at the water coming out of it. Alright, I'll put you on a tripod out in the engine bay so you can see how much water's coming out of this thing. I don't know if you guys can see that properly, but it looks like you could, but there is water coming out of this thing. There's quite a lot of water coming out of it as well. So what I'm going to try and do is, I'm going to take the spark plug leads off of Joseph's old engine, put the plugs back in, spray some brake cleaner or carby cleaner down it, and just to see if it will pop, because there is actually, I don't know if you can hear it on the video, but there is a slight knock coming from somewhere. I don't know if it's from the transmission end because there's something going on funny with the bolts down there. I think the flow bolts might be hitting the engine casing or something. I don't know, have to have a look. Or it could be one of the bearings has finally let go on the engine, but we won't know until I actually start it. Ready? Go. Alright, so as you just saw, it just started for the first time in a year and a half off a can of brake clean, so that's why I was running so rough. But also, this is another cool thing I wanted to show you. I did not think it would still work after all these years, but you flick this on, turn that on, cassette tape still works. And you flick that in, give it a minute. Oh, look at that. I'll turn that off before I get copyrighted. But also, this is another cool thing that I still can't believe works, being a Falcon and all. But shut the doors, smart lock, it still works. The doors lock, absolutely amazing. It's basically a brand new motor vehicle. Alright, now that the big girl is alive again, I'm going to pack all my tools up, take the battery out, put it back in the Rodeo, then hopefully the bog in there is dry enough so we can start sanding that. But yes, I'm very happy that this actually ran. It's been, I think, a year and a half since it's actually last ran. So yeah, I'm surprised how easily it started, and I'm very happy it actually does run. So next time I'm out here, I will put Joseph's fuel cell in the boot and get a radiator for it so I can actually sit there and idle and run properly. Also need to get some more spark plug leads because I did have to steal a couple off the Vitara over there, but apart from that, that was a success. Alright, the bog isn't fully dry yet, but that's alright, it's still a bit soft in a couple spots. So what I'm going to do is I'll get the Jenny set up and I will grind these little welds back here. I have to be careful I don't get shit all over this, but I'll grind that back, grind that one back, and try and weld up, if you can see it, try and weld up that little crack there without ruining my bog job. So I'll get all this set up and I'll come back to you when I'm grinding all these back. Alright, I don't know if you can hear me very well, but I'll give you a quick update while that thing is cooling down. I've got this one done. I just need to put a bit of bog in the middle of it because there's a little hole about halfway through this one, and then I've still got that one there and the weld to do, so I'm just going to keep going once this little Dremel cools down. Alright, it's about half an hour later. I've had some lunch and these are all done. So that one's been ground back. What was the other one? That one up there, that one over there, and the weld. I've just got a bit of bog on it now, drying. Most of this other bog is dry. I'll wait till later tonight though because I don't want to sand it and ruin it all, so I'll just wait a bit longer. So while I'm waiting, I'm just going to clean all this up, put my welder away, put all that stuff away, and then I'll start cleaning and sanding under here to paint all of this and all under the car too, get all that nice and painted and looking fresh. So I'm going to do that. Alright, I've cleaned all underneath the car. I've just ground this back because there are a couple runs in the old paint there, so just ground that back so there's no more runs in it. I've cleaned under there, it doesn't look very clean but there's no dirt on it, it's nice and dry. So I'm not going to paint up here, I'll just paint from here, might paint down to that corner there. I'll just go up, around, paint behind here, paint all down there. Then I'll go underneath the car and start painting the floor. So I'll put you guys on a time lapse of doing that. Alright, I've got all the painting done underneath the car. As you can see, the wheel well on this side's looking nice. All under the car's looking nice and fresh too. I am going to paint the rear half when I pull the diff out, so don't worry, I will be painting that when the rear of the car's up in the air. All fuel lines over there look much better. I only painted a little bit up the firewall because I'm going to paint most of the firewall the colour of the actual engine bay, which is going to be the original car colour, which is gunmetal grey. Quickly show you this other side. You can't see much on this side because it's a bit dark, but just more of the same really on the other side. Looks much better. I do need to get a bit more paint and do another coat on it because I did run out of paint and that's a bit thin, but that will have to be. GoPro turned off again, my apologies. As I was saying, doing another coat underneath the car will have to be next weekend when I get, well not next weekend, but next time I'm out here when I have a bit more paint. But thankfully this bog on this side is dry enough to start sanding, so I'm going to enjoy myself sanding all of this annoying itchy shit back. So I'll try and put you guys on a time lapse. I don't think I'll time lapse all of it because it will get a bit too boring, so I'm going to start doing that. Okay, so is it about 2 hours later and I've got this side of the engine bay, the passenger side, nearly all done. I've got all the bits of bog sanded back and nice and smooth, apart from this one bit of bog which won't dry, so I'm going to have to wait for that. And then obviously still got to sand everything else and all up here and across here, and I still have that side to do, but I probably won't do that this weekend. I'll try and just get this half of the engine bay done so I can put some primer on that so it doesn't rust, and then come out and do that next weekend when I have a bit more time. So I'm going to just try and let this dry, go have some dinner, and then I'll start masking that wiring up and keep sanding, so hopefully later tonight I can get a coat of primer on it. Alright, I've had some dinner, I'm nice and warm, got a jumper on, got the fire on, it's nice and warm. This bit of bog has not dried yet, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish sanding the rest of this side of the engine bay. I'll just put a light coat of paint over this and over here so it stops rusting, or doesn't rust. And then when I'm out here next time doing that side, I'll just sand this back and get that done so it's nice and dry. So yeah, I'm just going to do this side of the engine bay and just do a light coat of paint up there, mask those wires off, and that'll do us. Right, I don't know how well you can see, but Joseph is all ready to paint, so I'm going to set you guys up on time lapse somewhere so you can see it, and I'm going to get painting. Alright, good morning. It is a new day now, and this side of the engine bay is nice and dry, but it is not perfect. There are still a couple little marks, I don't know if you can see, in here and a little here, which I need to go and fix up. But I was going to go over this whole side again with the 300 and 800 just so it's really smooth, but I won't re-sand this until this side is all done and painted, which I'll do next time I'm out here. So I'll get that side in a coat of primer, and then once that dries I'll go over this whole engine bay, sand it all back down so it's nice and smooth, give it another coat, sand it again, then I can actually start putting the colour coat on. But that is enough work done to Joseph for this weekend. I've gotten enough done to where I'm happy. I've got the wheel wells and the underside of the body painted, but one side nearly done. So yeah, I'm pretty happy, so I'm just going to keep fluffing around with that blue falcon out the back. Right, so I think the first job for this morning is to start pulling the fuel cell out of the back of this thing. Oh, yeah. Hasn't been opened in a while. There she is. Start pulling this out and start getting it bolted into the other falcon. Alright, I've got the old fuel cell out. I'd actually forgot how small this thing was. It looked absolutely tiny. But I'll open up the boot of the old Falcon and I'll just drop this straight in, drill some holes in it and get it bolted in. Alright, so as you can see, the fuel cell is now sitting in the back of the Falcon. So all I need to do is I'll pull on here, disconnect these old fuel lines so I can hook my new braided ones up, hook my fuel pump up to power, drill some holes in the floor so it doesn't move anywhere, and then I'm going to make a cardboard thing up just to go around here to stop dirt and crap getting in when I'm driving it. Alrighty, the fuel cell install is complete. I've got my fuel pump mounted and wired in, got my fuel lines all connected, got a little blanking cover made for the boot floor, my breather's still on, fuel cell's nice and solid, not going anywhere. This fuel system is probably a bit overkill for this car, to be honest, but it is going to be running on E85 and it is going to have boost, so this will suit it perfectly really. So this is going to do this car for this episode. I'll be doing a bit more on it next episode when I'm out here. Well, I don't know if it will be the next episode, but when I'm next out here I will do more work on it. So yeah, that's it for this car. Alright, I think I'm going to wrap this episode up here because it's probably getting pretty long at this stage. So I'm pretty happy with what we got done this weekend. We've got a decent amount of work done to Joseph on its engine bay and wheel wells. Also got the old blue paddock basher going, which is good because it hasn't run in a year and a half, so that's going to be having some more content and videos filmed on it in the next couple months. Also got the fuel cell bolted in, which is pretty cool. So that'll do it for this episode. Thanks for joining me once again. Any likes, comments and subscribes are greatly appreciated, and I'll see you on the next one.